roller coaster ride, hands up in the sky.
Hi, I'm Nick and I've been living in my self-built camper van for 6 years. I decided to move into a van because I wanted a little bit more freedom in my life, and that's exactly what van life gave me. And since then I've travelled 12 countries, my favourite being Spain, Germany and Scotland. It's an incredible experience being able to live in a camper van, and don't worry guys, you don't have to be able to build one to enjoy life on the road. You can rent one to give it a go. For example, a motorhome like this has everything you need. It's 4-berth, 2 bedrooms, the kitchen has an oven, hob and fridge, and there is a bathroom with a toilet and shower cubicle.
So, what's the biggest misconception about female drivers that you'd like to dispel?
I feel like there's the very obvious one that women can't drive. That's probably the biggest one. There is definitely a few others, but I'd like to misspell that one because I've been driving for 12 years now and I've not had a single accident on the road. So I don't believe that that is necessarily true. I think all genders can have bad drivers, not just women.
Do you have any anecdotes about experiences as a female driver?
Do you know what? I actually don't in the real world. So I've not had any bad comments whilst driving as a female on the road, which I think is pretty good because I do have friends, female friends, who have definitely had comments. But I'd say more of my comments come from social media. So when I post about me living in a van or driving the van, that's where the comments come in about you know, you can't drive, or surely your partner's doing all the driving and you're just sitting there taking videos and stuff, but that's not the case. I do a lot of both.
Do you have any tips for women who may be wanting to get into van life?
Yes, I do. I have quite a few actually. So one is to just go and do it. Nothing needs to hold you back because you're a female. You can do anything you want to do. I had no build skills before I started my van life journey, and I learned it all through YouTube or through friends and family around. So I'm very grateful for that and all the resources that are out there. So if I can do it, you can absolutely do it. But also you don't have to build your own van to enjoy life on the road. You can have an adventure in a van that isn't built out or built out by someone else as well. It doesn't have to be you doing it. So remember that you can still enjoy life on the road without having all of the DIY skills. Just get out there. I think that is the biggest thing, is to just actually get out there and enjoy what this world has to offer, because there's so much to do and see.
So something that I'm quite aware of is obviously a lot of women might not feel safe travelling themselves on the road. So yeah, what sort of tips would you have on that?
And yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest questions I get asked as well on Instagram from females about safety on the road. And I think it can be scary. I was solo on the road for about 6 months and it took some time getting used to. I was in a way smaller camper van, a Vauxhall Vivero, so I felt like it was easier to stay safe because it was less to look after. But there were a few things that I'd put in place to make sure that I felt okay on the road. So one of them is obviously making sure you lock your van. I know that's really simple to say, but a lot of people don't. I've heard scary stories about people opening people's van's doors, and I would not want that happening to me. So lock your door and always have a route to the cab. So I like to build my vans with a bulkhead, but I always make sure there's a little escape hatch. In my Vivero, I just had a curtain, a thermal curtain, so I could just nip straight through and drive off if I needed to. But also things like where you're putting your keys at night. So after you've locked it, I have a hook. I always have a hook somewhere in my van, and that is exactly where the keys go. If it's not there, I will not go to bed. I will make sure that that's there. And also signal. Although I do think that can limit you going into the full-on wilderness, I still think you should either have signal or have told someone where you're going beforehand. And to be honest, I feel that way with anyone solo on the road. It's not just about females, because no one actually knows who's in the van and you don't know who's out the van. So sometimes you can both be scared of each other. So I think it's more solo tips. So yeah, making sure you tell someone where you are if you're not going to have signal.
What does van life mean to you?
It means a lot, to be honest. I feel like this is a really deep, good question. So as I said before, I started 6 years ago, and it actually started off with a more minimalist and sustainable journey. So I'd watched the Minimalist documentary on YouTube, and I just thought, God, we consume so much, don't we? Like, we really don't need everything that we buy. I had 2 3-door wardrobes full of clothes. I'd been in the fashion, I did fashion design at uni. I loved shopping, worked at Selfridges. So yeah, I was just, everything was overflowing, and I realised that I actually didn't touch half the stuff or need half the stuff. So I went down I spiraled a little bit, to be honest. And then I came across van life, and I thought, wow, how perfect. Everything you need in such a small box, and you get to travel, which is something that I was really missing out on. Living in London, all my money was going on rent. I had no money to save. I barely got to see my friends, because unless it was doing something for free, which people don't tend to want to do, they want to go for a drink or something. And I couldn't really afford that on the wage I was on with the rent that I had. And I wanted to travel. So I was like, this looks perfect. And at the time, it was all in America. I hadn't seen it done in England. And my partner at the time, I said, do you want to live in a van, like, and go traveling? And fortunately, he said, yeah. So within 2 months, we'd found a van and started learning on YouTube how to convert in ebooks from all these Americans. But again, it was all fun and games, and it was so great. So there's that. It's the freedom. And I know it's not full freedom, but freedom is down to the individual's perspective. And I was happy that I'd stepped into a path where I could start getting it. So again, in terms of sustainability, I like the self-sufficiency of living in a camper van. So my first camper van had solar panels. It had a rainwater collection system, which I haven't done again for various reasons. It was very messy, but it was incredible because in the UK it rains so much. So we were in Scotland, and within a few days our little 10-litre tank had filled up, and we then ran it through a water filter and put it into our main tank so we could drink it. So there's all of those things. So like I said, it's a journey to freedom. I'm not 100% like there. I'd love to get some land one day, but it's all a good start because I am living off my means. You know, my water tanks can vary from 50 to 100 litres depending on which van I've been in over the years, because I've lived in 4 over 6 years. And yeah, it's just incredible because you're minimal. It's a minimalist lifestyle. Life on the road. I can work for myself as well. So I've started up, my content creation, which is a business. I've set up other businesses as well. So I'm also a bushcraft instructor. That's all quite new, but that's happening. And to not be able to, work in an office 9 to 5, I've got the hours to invest in myself and have fun with the life that we get.
Do you remember how you felt the first time you drove a camper van?
I actually do. It feels like it was ages ago, but yeah, I do remember. So before, I'd only had a little Toyota Yaris. It was, one of the hubcaps had fell off and everything. It was this beaten up little car. I had that for under a year, and then I moved to London. So then I didn't have a car. Then the first vehicle I got again after 4 or 5 years was a camper van, a van. It was a Peugeot Boxer L3H2, so quite a big one. And it felt massive. It was huge on the roads. Like, it's so wide. I think they're 1.8 meters wide. Now I've driven vans for 6 years. Like, it doesn't feel like anything. But at the time, I thought I was going to hit everything that I was driving past. And reversing it was also just really difficult because it's twice the size of what I was used to driving. And again, I'd only driven for that 1 year. I'd never had a car before that. So yeah, it was a fun experience, but after about, I'd say, a week on the road, it becomes like second nature. You know exactly what you're doing and how the vehicle drives. But I think that's the same with any vehicle anyway. Like when you get into a new one, it's like, where's this button and where's that? So yeah, it was a little learning curve for a week, and then it was all fun and games straight to van life.
What's been your favourite van life experience?
The travel has been incredible. Since I started van life, I've now travelled 12 countries. I've just tried to count them on my hand earlier, so I think it's 12. And with my dog, which is just awesome because, what dog gets to travel to all these countries? So yeah, that's been really fun. In terms of the experiences themselves, it's getting to go to, I call them unworldly places. So, for example, the Pink Lake of Torrevieja, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's just incredible. There's a pink lake, in the middle of Spain. There's also quite a lot of them are actually in Spain that I've really enjoyed. There is Tabernas Desert, so the only desert in Europe is in Spain as well. I really, really love Spain. It's definitely high up on my list. Well, I'd say it's my favourite country to have travelled. And you can park right in the desert, and no one's around. There are actually Western. There's like a Western area that you can go and see, or like where the spaghetti westerns were filmed. But to be honest, every time I've been to that area, there's been no one around. So it's like you and the desert. So it's those experiences, and again, through Spain, there's loads of hot springs that are free. So they're all incredible experiences because they're not something that you get to do every day or in the UK. But in terms of the UK, I love Scotland. Like, it's just so magical up there. I went in the winter and I've seen reindeer there, the only reindeer in the UK. So it's just all these really unique experiences when it comes to travel that I think have been the best experiences, because you can't compare. Going back to actually one of the first weeks in my the first camper van, we pulled into a car park on the way to London. We were actually building in Telford, living in London. So every weekend we were getting on a train back to Telford, building, then coming back. But as we needed to bring it to London one of the weekends, we pulled in near Oxford, and straight away there were deer on the car park. And I was probably 26. And I felt like I'd never really seen wild deer, and I was like, this is just a magical experience. So yeah, sometimes you can have them locally and further abroad in Europe, and it's those things that I think you hold close, because I wouldn't have got to see that if I wasn't in a camper van. I'd have been in my flat in London watching people walk by, like not deer sitting outside my van enjoying their life. So that was really, really cool. And then in terms of other experiences is probably, like I mentioned earlier, work. Because we all have to work to live, and fund the travels and everything. And just being able to live in a camper van, my costs have gone down a lot. I'm not paying rent. I'm paying for water, gas and fuel, insurance, road tax. It's really, really minimal. So I'm getting to have a better work-life balance. And like I said, start different ventures, test how they go, or just actually have some more time to myself to go outdoors and enjoy this world. So yeah, they're the two, I'd say. Travel and the work experiences, because we have to. Not because I want to.
Okay, what's your favourite thing to listen to whilst you drive?
Do you know what? At the moment, I've been really into podcasts. So that's what I listen to. It was 4 hours to drive here, and it was just podcast after podcast. So a couple that I recommend when driving is like Radio Rental, if you like true crime and horror, that's incredible. And Otherworld, if you like Otherworld. So it's all horror stuff, so don't listen to it if you get spooked too easily. To be honest, I shouldn't listen to it, because when I do sleep in the van by myself, I'm like, what's out there? What creatures are going to come tonight?
Nice. And what's your favourite place to take a road trip?
Well, that's an easy one. I've said it 100 times. It's Spain. It's just something else. I feel like the whole country has so many different, I'm going to call them biomes, desert, beach, you've got Picos Europa, the mountains. It's got everything for everyone. The forests as well, they're incredible. It's also really just easy to road trip. So they've got airs. So those who only travel in the UK might not have heard of them. They're basically little areas that are designated to camper vans and motorhomes that you could get water from. Some of them you can even get electricity. So they might charge if it's electricity, but they can be free. They've got sinks outdoors and waste disposal, I should mention that. Bins and everything that you need to make it easy. So we would road trip Spain, and we love staying out in the wild, but every few days we might try find an air so we can, sort the van, because it's only a small space. You need to, get water, empty the toilet, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of Europe is easy, but we just love it in Spain because the north, the south, the east, and it's all very different. And I like beaches, I like deserts, I like mountains, and it's got it all there for you. So highly recommend road tripping there.